Yeah, hi everyone, and welcome to today's section. So in the past sections, we looked at Power Query in Excel and Power Pivot in Excel. Today's section, we'll try to leverage our learnings from our previous sections. We'll try to build marketing analytics dashboard in Excel. So this is what we're trying to recreate, something like this. So market share, revenue by state, etc. for a company called Fan Astel. And for this report, we'll try to answer the following business questions. So the first one is, what's the market share for our company, Vanastel? So across all different companies, right? What's our own share of the um, market, basically? The next one is, what's the revenue trend across all manufacturers? So you have different manufacturers that manufacture products that are being sold. So across all the manufacturers, right? What's the trend over time for each manufacturer? Which ones are doing well, which ones are doing poorly? That will help us um, look at this in detail. The next question is the sales distribution in the US. So across all the countries which we sell, right? We just try to look at the sales across the states in the US. And then lastly, we'll look at revenue trend and year-on-year growth. So year-on-year growth is simply comparing this year's sales with the previous year's sales. By how many percent did our sales grow, for example? That's a catch. And we'll see all this in a bit. So now let me share my full screen. So onto my Excel file. So for this report, we'll work with a couple data points. So let me look at the US sales first. So you have data for US in a separate document, sales.csv. This contains sales for just the US. So when I open this up, you see it contains sales for the US region and some other fields. So it's quite a large file. So it takes some time to load. Okay, cool. So this is product ID. This is the date for the transaction. This is zip code. This helps us to identify the location for the transaction. And these units, number of quantity that was sold. And then revenue, this amount of revenue we got from this transaction. So this is just for the US alone. So you have the same data for other countries. So we'll try to combine or append them together during our data cleaning. And we'll have one large table that contains sales data for all the countries. But this is just the US alone. So I'll close this file up. Then you also have this dimensions.xlx file. This contains data for different dimensions, products, location, etc. So for the products sheet, right, this contains data for products, product ID, products. Now the product column, right, if you look very well, is a combination of two different fields. You have products before the pipe symbol, Abbas MA01. So let me zoom in. So you have products, Abbas MA01. And then after the pipe symbol, you also have segments all season. So it's combined together due to some error while doing data entry. So try to fix this during our data cleaning process. Then you also have the category mix, manufacturer ID, and lastly you have the price. That's the unit price. Each of these products, this is a unit price. Then you also have manufacturer, right? So this table is quite it has a wrong orientation. We need to orient this properly and do some data cleaning. So if you can look very well, this is a column, manufacturer ID, but it's here as a row. This is another column, manufacturer and logo. We need to change the orientation later on. Then lastly, you have the geography table. So this is just giving you more information about the different transactions, right? So here, the zip code 22654, right? This is city. This is states, this is the region, this is districts, and this is the country. So it just helps just tell you more information about the zip column in our sales table. So I'll close on this file, and then we'll look at one more document. So we've seen data for the US, but you also have a similar data for other countries. So in the international sales folder, you have data for Australia, Canada, down till Nigeria. And all those files, they have similar structure. If I open Australia, for example, you see it's very similar to that of the US. So it is quite large also. So it might take a moment to come up. Yeah, cool. So you see similar columns, product ID, dates, zip code, units, revenue, but then you have one extra column for country, right? We didn't see this in the US data, but you have a column for country. So the same similar table with the US table, and the exact same thing to across other countries, Germany, Nigeria, etc. And our goal will be to combine all those tables together, and we'll have one large table that contains sales data for all the countries. So we'll go through this in our data cleaning step. So I'll go on to close this. So now let's try to connect our data and try to build our reports. So first things first, right? We'll come on to data tab. We use Power Query to connect our files. So I'll come on to get data. I'm trying to get data from, let's start with the Excel workbook for dimensions. So I'll choose Excel workbook here. So I'll come on to the directory where I have those files. That's so data tab, data folder, US sales. So you have the BI dimensions here. So I'll choose this BI dimension, and this should open up the this window that shows me the preview of my tables, right? The Power Query Navigator. So when I come on here, I click on the product table. You see a preview right here. So the product table and this product sheet here, they're similar, they're the same thing, right? So I want to use the product table, the geo table, and manufacturer table. So to choose all those three tables, right? I'll need to check this box here that says select multiple items. So I check this box, and I come on here and choose product table, geo, and manufacturer. So once I have these three checked, I come down to load transform data, right? Since I want to make changes and also bring in more data into this model, I'll hit on the transform data. But if your data is clean, then you hit load. But oftentimes than not, you want to just cross-check, right? So it's recommended to use the transform data option and check your data that is in the right format. So I click on transform data, and this should open up the Power Query editor. Yeah, awesome. So you can see my products, geo, manufacturer tables, they all brought in here successfully. So I want to bring in more data points, my US sales data and international sales data. So I'll come on to the top right, the top right, where you have new source. So I'll click on new source dropdown. I want to bring in a CSV file, right? The US sales is CSV file. So I'll choose test.csv. And this shows me my file. I choose this and hit import. So this is my CSV file, right? Hit OK. So this for the US. Then lastly, I'll bring in my international sales file. So file. So for these, right, I'll choose a folder since all those files are in one folder and they all have the same structure. So I'll choose folder option and I'll come on here and choose the international folder. So back to my directory, Excel. So data, right, that's a tab. So I'll come to this folder, I'll choose this international sales. This contains all the CSV files for all the countries, Australia, down to Nigeria. So I hit open. So you can see all the files, right? Australia, Canada, Germany, down to Nigeria. So you have the option to combine and transform data, So I'll choose the option, combine and transform data. So I hit on this option. And Power Query will carry out some custom transformations under the hood. So this is a sample file, right? So you show me a sample file. This is how the file looks like. Product ID down to country. Comma is the limiter value. That's correct. So I can hit OK. Power Query should proceed with the transformations. So evaluating query. When you look at the left-hand side now, you can see what this new folders, right, that I've brought in here. So Power Query has carried out the transformations, trying to combine all the files together. So you have what parameter, sample file, right? This would be just maybe the Australia file, for example, as a sample. And you use that to what carry out the changes, right? Transform it. So it applies all those changes to all the files, and then it results in what's the final file. So when you look down here, you see this query, international sales, right? This is the result of what combining all those files together. When I choose this country dropdown, for example, it's showing Australia, right? I click on load more. So it should show you all the countries, right? Australia down to Nigeria. Yeah, this looks okay. So now we can carry out our transformations, right? Just minimize this. So first thing I want to do is I'll just rename all those queries. So I'll rename them. So I'll call this products. Just click on the query twice, products. Or you can also right click and choose rename. That works also. So geography. I'll just make this proper case, capital M. I'll call this US sales. So we can just make distinction, this US sales. And I'll just put a space between international sales here, international sales. Yeah, cool. So we can go on to carry out our transformations now and data cleaning steps. So I come on to the products table, for example. So if you look at the right-hand side, right, apply steps, Power Query has tried to carry out some steps, right? Source, navigation, chain types. Let's look at this in detail. So source, this is basically Power Query connecting to our file. You can see the path, right? This is just the path on my laptop where this file is located. US sales folder, BI dimensions.slxx, right? Excel file. So after it goes to file navigation, there are several sheets, right, on that file. It navigates towards the products table and bring that in, right? That's the products table we have here now in this view. Then the next step, you try to what? So when you look here, you can see that what the types are what? When you look here, ABC123, ABC123. It means what this general type. There's no specific data type yet. But you can come on here and what choose a data type, right? Decimal number, currency, whole number, dates, etc. So Power Query tries to detect the type by itself, right? Chain type. So you're seeing what you are trying to make the product ID as numbers, product as text, category as text, ABC, right? ID as so Power Query looks at the first few rows of data and uses that to what detect the data type, right, for those columns. So most times, right, it's correct, but oftentimes you can make mistake, right? So I prefer to just cancel the step and do it myself. So I'll come on to product ID. This will be a whole number. So I choose whole number. I come on to products, right? This text. So I'll choose text, for example. Yeah, I come on to category, this text. I choose text also. Manufacturer ID, this whole number. So I choose whole number. And lastly, price, right? So currency decimal number can work here. So let's do currency. Let me see. Okay, so I think let me cancel this. Okay, so we need to do some data cleaning here. USD, because the USD right there, we need to separate it before we then change the price column type. So I'll just repeat the steps again. This was whole number. And you know what? Let's leave this types for now. Let's try to clean first, after which we will now add the types. So if you look at this table here, product ID, this looks okay. 1, 2, 3. The product table, right? We mentioned earlier that this was a combination of 2 columns. The product name before the pipe symbol, and then the segment, right? All season after the pipe symbol. We need to separate this into 2 columns. So what I can do is I click on this column, right? So you have what's called split column transformation, right? The home tab, when you look here, you have what split column. So you can split a column, right? By delimiter, by number of characters, etc. Alternatively, you can also right click here and what you come down to what split column, right? The same thing also. So you have different ways of doing the same thing in Power Query. So I'll just use this option here, right? So you can see I have the product column selected. You can see it has a green background, right? It means that's selected. So anything I do will apply to that column. So I choose this, I come on here, split column by delimiter. Since they are all separated by what the pipe symbol, right? The same across all the rows. Product name, pipe symbol, and then segment name. So I'll choose the option, right? Delimiter. So this opens up a tab. So you have options, right? Colon, comma, equals, semicolon, depending on what you're trying to do, right? Based on your data. So currently my data has a pipe symbol, but I don't have that an option here. So I'll choose the custom option. So here I can type in my own custom delimiter. In this case, that's what the pipe symbol, right? So you have different options, split at leftmost, rightmost, each occurrence. So if you have multiple delimiters, you have to specify if it's the leftmost one or the rightmost one or each one. In our case, we have just one instance. So anything we choose here should work, right? With just one instance, right? So I can just leave at leftmost, for example, and then hit OK. So I'm saying, right, separate this column into 2 using the pipe symbol as the delimiter. So I hit OK. And you can see we went from this, right? We went from this to this, right? To this. So these are products. The pipe symbol, right? Is the limiter. Now I have for the segment here. So I can go on to rename this, right? So after this, Power Query will try to change the type of data, right? Change type. But I prefer to just take this off and put it myself, right? So I split column by delimiter. I come on here. I'll call this product. Click on it twice, right? Rename it to product. Same thing here too. Click on this twice. So this is segments column. So I'll call this segment and enter. Yeah, cool. So the same thing, right? For the price also, you have the symbol, right? USD space and then the actual price. So the USD is the currency. Why the 412.13 here is what's the actual price. So we can split this, right? We have currency column separate and then the actual price separately, right? So let's do that. So the same drill, we can use the split column option, right? And separate by spaces. That's one way to do this. So let us do that. The same way, right? Split column by delimiter. In this case now, we use a space, right? A space, because when you look here, right, you have USD, a space before what's the actual price, USD space. So a space separates the USD and the actual price. So I'll come on here, right? Choose this column, split column by delimiter, and I'll choose what space, right? Since you have just one space between them, anything you choose, you can up. So I hit OK. And you can see it's now split, right? So I'll call this currency. And I'll call this price. So you also apply the change type step. I'll just cancel this. Let's just take it off. Delete this. I'll add it myself. So I have all this stuff, right? So let's go on to change the type now. So I come on here, right? I'll make this to be whole number. This text is correct, right? Text. That's text ABC text. That's correct, ABC. Then you have ABC text also. That's correct. And for the category column, right? We need to make a change actually. So you have what's mixed. Then you see what's no. Then you have rural. And then no, right? So you find out that what's all these, right? All these null values, they belong to the mix, right? So mix, these are all mix. On to the next one, rural. These are all rural. On to the next, just like that, right? So in Power Query, you have a information called fill. So you can fill down, you can fill up. In this case, we want to fill down. So fill down means that we'll use what's the first non-blank value. That's mix. We'll fill down all the null values until it gets towards the next non-blank value. That's rural. We'll now fill down what's this value in rural. Rural will fill everything here down. All the null values will fill with rural until the next one, just like that. So every null value would fill what's the null values below it. That's how it works. So I'll choose the category column, right click, come down to fill, right, fill, and fill down. So you see what happens, right? It has filled down all the null values, and now you have what mixed down to rural. So it fills down all of them onto the next one, just like that. That's all once, right? So this is text also. Manufacturer ID, this is whole number, and price, this currency. So this looks correct. Product ID, product, segments, category, manufacturer ID, currency, and price. So let's go on to the next table, the geography table. So for this table, let's look at what the steps that are being applied. So you have source, right? That's the path to our file. Navigation, the geo sheet, right? And then promoted headers. So Parker is trying to apply some steps, right? Based on how you understand our data. But then these are not correct. So I'll take off this change type step, take off this step also. So we'll do it ourselves, right? So this first row, source, last updated, null. These are all irrelevant data points, right? We don't need them. So we'll take them off. So here, right, you have the option to remove rows. When you look up here, right, you see what's remove rows. So you can drop down, right, remove top rows, bottom rows, alternate rows, duplicates, etc. Right, depending on your use case, you remove rows. So in our case, once we remove the top 3 rows, 1, 2, 3, since they are not relevant, right, they are dirty data. You can also write, so if you want to come here, right, come here to this box symbol here, drop down, right, we choose what remove top rows also, right? So either of those would work. So let's use this, remove top rows. So specify number of rows you want to remove from the top. I want to remove the top 3 rows. So I'll choose 3 and hit OK. And you can see, right, we've gone from this to what's this. Those 3 rows have been removed. Now, when you look closely, right, you see that what's this first row is actually our headers: zip, city, state, region, down to country. So what we can do is we need to make the first row as the headers, right? So when you look up here, right, transform, you'll see what use first row as headers. I'll just click on that, use first row as headers. And it has made the first row to be our headers, right? So now, just like before, right, Power Query will try to what, change the type for us, but we don't want this. Just take it off. We'll do it ourselves. Take it off. So this is what we just did now, right? We want the headers. So we've made the zip down to country as a header. Next, now I want to look at what we can clean here. So I think everything looks good. For the districts, we can try to remove this hash symbols, right? Try to remove them. So just right click, come on to what replace values. So I want to remove the hash symbols. So I'll replace hash, type in hash there, value to find hash, replace with nothing. It means what? Delete it, take it off, right? That's what it means. So I hit OK. And you can see it's taking off all those hash symbols, right? So now we can change our data types. So I come on to zip, for example. So zip, right? You want to use numbers, right? But then some zip codes might have 0 in front of them. When you change to numbers, that 0 in front will go off, right? So example, you have 001, for example. If you change to numbers, those 2 zeros in front will go. You have just 1, but that's not correct, right? So zip codes, we'll leave it as text. So I'll come on here, ABC. I'll choose text as my zip code type. City, this text also. States, this text also. Region, this text also. District, text also. Country. So everything here should be text also. Text. Yeah, cool. So if you look at the country column, for example, you have several countries, but you also have some null values. So these null values, we just filter it out. These null values, we filter them out and hit OK. Right. So you have several countries, like as we've seen. You have USA, Mexico, Japan, Nigeria, etc. So you find out that in this table, right, in our model, we need to combine this with other tables, for example. We need to combine this with other tables, right? And the sales table has what? This sales, right? It has zip. Geography also has zip, right? But if you try to join with the zip, you find out that what? 2 countries can have the same zip code, for example. So that means what? This zip column is not unique, but it's meant to be unique with no duplicates. But it's possible that, for example, you have 22654 in USA. This can also be a zip code, right, for a city in Germany, for example. So you have what? This also multiple times in a column. But ideally, this should be a primary key. It's meant to be unique, right? So because of this, we'll need to what? Create a new column that will make this zip to be unique, right? And for that, we'll try to combine what? Zip and country together. So for example, you had what? 22654 USA, 22654 Germany. If I combine zip and this together, right, you have a new column that will have what? 22654 USA, 22654 Germany. So they're now different, right? It's not the same thing now. The USA and Germany combined with the zip code is now making it unique. It's no more duplicates. But if I use just zip, I'll have what 22654 in two places as a duplicate. So it means that what's creating a combination of what zip and country will lead towards a unique column, right? And we'll see the impact of this when we try to do our model. So for this, right, I'll come on to the add column, the top here, right? Come on to add column, custom column, right? So what's our new column name? I'll call this zip country. And for the formula, right, this simply, we'll try to combine zip and country together. So for this, right, I'll just click on zip twice, right? It comes in here. Now to combine different text together, right, use what's the and function and zip and. So what will separate our zip code from the country? Let's use a hyphen, right? And then and again. So zip, a hyphen, and then we'll put the country there, right? So this is what our formula looks like: zip and in quotes hyphen and then country. So I hit OK. And these are our new column, right? Zip country. So what I can do is I'll just change type, right, to text. These are column. Let me confirm something. Load more. Yeah, so you have your new column, right? Zip and country. Cool. So this same thing, right? We'll do it for our sales table also. We'll combine zip and country. That way, we're able to link them together in our model. We'll get to that in a bit. So I think we're done with the geography table. Next, let's look at the manufacturer table. So this table, right, can see clearly that the last three rows, row 4, row 5, row 6, they are irrelevant rows, right? They are all no. That's dirty data. So first things first, we can remove those columns, those rows rather, the last three rows. So I'll come on here, right? Come on to the home tab. Then click on what remove rows, right? Bottom rows. I choose this. So I can choose how many rows, right? Bottom 3 rows, remove them. I hit OK. Right. Before this, like I said, right, it's best practice. Power Query will try to change type for you. Just cancel this. You do it yourself. That's better. So remove rows, remove bottom rows, right? Bottom rows. And remove bottom 3 rows. That's what I want to do. So I hit OK. So I have this, right? Now, this table is in a wrong orientation, right? Manufacturer ID, manufacturer logo. They are meant to be our columns. We're meant to have 3 columns. Column 1, manufacturer. Column 2, column 1, manufacturer ID. Column 2, manufacturer. Column 3 will now be what the logo, right? Then you have all those values, 1, 2, 3, down to 14, right? They will be under manufacturer ID, just like that. So basically what's happening here is that the rows are the columns and the columns are the rows. So it's swapped, right? We need to do what is called a transpose. Transpose this data will make the rows to become the columns, right? So we have 3 columns instead of 3 rows. That's the idea. And instead of 14 columns, we'll have 14 rows. Right, that's the catch. So I come on here, click on any part of this table, right? Come on to the transform tab, right? So up here, click on transform. And you have what the transpose option, right? So it says what transpose this table, treating rows as columns and columns as rows. So I'll choose this. So I click on transpose, right? And you can see what is helped us to transpose this table, right? We now have what 3 columns: manufacturer ID, manufacturer, and logo, right? So this columns, column 1, column 2, column 3, it don't mean anything. The first row is our actual columns, right? Manufacturer ID, manufacturer logo. So we just what we'll use first row as headers, right? So I choose this. Use first row as headers. So you have manufacturer ID, manufacturer, and logo. So Power Query has changed type for us. When I look here, this whole number, this text, it looks correct. So we can just do it like that. So you're done with the manufacturer's table, right? Let's go to US sales. So look at the apply steps, right? At the right hand side, source, promoter headers, and chain type, right? So promoter headers, this looks correct, but then the chain type, we'll just cancel this, we'll do it ourselves. So I take it off, right? So product ID, for example, this should be whole number, product ID. Yeah, it should be whole number. Date, it should be date type. So I'll choose date here, right? Let me just zoom in. You see what I'm doing? This whole number, right? For dates, this date type. For zip, this should be text, right? Yeah. For units, this should be whole number. For revenue, it should be currency. So let's go on to the last. I think this looks okay. Go on to the last table, international sales. So source name, product ID, this. If you look at the apply steps, right? These are all the steps that Power Query did to help us combine all the tables together, right? So this last step, chain type, we'll take it off. We'll do it ourselves, right? But then before we change the types, this first column here, source name, right? This is just what the names of the files, Australia down to Nigeria. But we don't need this on our date in our table, our final table. So I can remove this since we can see the countries here, right? Australia, etc. So we don't need this. I take this off. So I right click and choose remove here. So this is off. Product ID dates down to country. So I come on here, right? Product ID. I'll just call this. I'll make this to be whole number. This should be dates. This should be text, right? Zip code should be text. And then this should be whole number. This should be currency. And this should be text. So remember, we mentioned that for our final table, right? For the sales, we need to combine US sales and international sales together. So currently, international sales has data for all the other countries, Australia down to Nigeria. Mhm. It looks okay. So we have Australia down to Nigeria, right? We want to have one table that has data for what? Both the US and what? All the other countries. So we'll apply an operation called append, where we'll combine US sales. These two tables now, we'll combine them together. But for the append to work perfectly, right, you have to have the exact columns in both tables. So we have products ID, dates, zip, units, revenue. Here we have the same thing too. Products ID, dates, zip, units, revenue. But we'll have one extra column, the country, right? So for us to combine these two together, we need to add what? A new column here also for country. That way we'll have what? The exact columns in both tables, and then we can combine them together seamlessly, right? So I'll come on here and make a new column called country. So come on to the add column tab, right? Add column tab. On the US sales query, right? Add column tab. I'll choose what's custom column. So I'll call this country. And this column is simply what? You just type what in quotes, right? USA. That will be the value throughout the column. Since everything here is for the USA, right? So in quotes, yeah, that's what equal to in quotes USA and hit OK. And you can see, right, everything here is what USA. We can make this to be what text. Cool. So they're about the same thing, right? So we'll try to combine these two together, right? A new query where we'll combine these two together. So we'll click on transform, the home tab rather. So home tab, right? When you look at towards the right hand side, top right, you see what's this option, append queries, right? Append queries. So when I click on this, you can append queries or append queries as new. So append query means that you just combine a table to the existing query. As new means that what we'll create a new query where we'll combine what two or more tables together. So I'll choose the second option, append queries as new. That's what I'll choose. Append queries as new. So I choose this. And it opens up this tab, right? So append two tables. First table, international sales. Second table will be what? US sales, right? US sales. And I'll hit OK. So this is my resulting table, right? Append one, product ID, date, zip. Why is the dates in a different type? Let me see something. This type, this type. Okay, so this product ID, this. So the date is in a different type. You just come here and change it to the correct type. This should be date type, right? So aside that, let's confirm that all the countries are here now. So I'll come onto the country, click on the drop down, and try to look at load more. So I expect to see USA alongside all the other countries here. Yeah, perfect. So I can see Australia, Canada, can I see USA also? This has all data, right? So just cancel, don't hit OK, just cancel this. And then I'll call this new query, append one. I'll rename it to what? All sales. All sales, right? Hit enter. So all our data, right? They are all transformed and clean. We can now load this to Excel and start making our reports. So I come on to the top left, right? Where you have close and load. So I won't close and load. I'll hit the drop down here. And what's close and load to? Our data is quite large, and we don't want to just load to Excel, right? We want to load to data model. So first, we'll close and load to, right? And then we'll specify the tables we want to add to the model. So I'll choose the second option, right? Close and load to. So I click on this. This opens up this tab, right? So import data, select how you want to view data in your workbook. Table, no, we don't want this. We'll choose the last option, only create connection, right? That's what we'll choose. And then I'll hit OK. So if you look at the right-hand side, you can see what all our queries, right? Product, geography, manufacturer, US sales, council, all sales. So now I can specify the tables I want to add to my model. That's Power Pivot. So I want the products table. So I'll come to products. I'll right click. Let me zoom in. So I'm doing. So I come to products, right click, and I'll choose load to. And I'll add words, add to data model. I'll check this box and hit OK. Check the box, right? Hit OK. So the same drill, right? Come to geography, right click, load to. Check the box also and hit OK. Yeah, cool. So you can see 176,929 rows loaded. Next, we'll come to manufacturer, right click, load to. Check the box, right, and hit OK. Next, US sales, right? So we already combined US sales and international sales together. And we'll have a table called all sales that contains these two tables combined together. So in essence, we don't need the US sales and international sales since we have both of them combined together as all sales, right? So I will ignore US sales, international sales. I will load the all sales table since it contains everything. So I come to the all sales table, right click here, load to, and check the box, right, add to data model, hit OK. So it's quite a large table. It will take some time before it's downloading. I think it's over 3 million rows thereabout. We have over 5 million rows being loaded, right? So you can see the power of the Power Pivot data model. If it was in Excel sheets, this would work error out since you've exceeded 1 million rows. But you can load very large amounts of data using the Power Pivot data model. Yeah, cool. So if for some reason, right, you want to go back and make some change to your query, just come to any of the tables here, click on it twice, right? To open back your Power Query editor. and you can make changes to your data, right, if you want to. So now let's open up our data model and look at our table. So you can just come on to data tools, right? Under your data tab, data tools, you see this icon here, right? This green icon here, that's your data model. Alternatively, you can just come on to Power Pivot, right? Power Pivot. And here you can just click on what's this manage, right? Click on it twice. Open up your data model also. So you can see this is my data model, right? It's opened it up. So you have product table, geography table, manufacturer table, and all sales table. So one dimension that we don't have currently is what the date dimension, but that's very, very important, right? When trying to work with Power Pivots in Excel or other tools. So in the Power Query section, we looked at how to make a model, right, using Power Query. That's recommended, right? But then for this, we just work with Power Pivots. You can also make models with Power Pivots. The downside is that you need to manually update it. Whenever your data is refreshed, you need to come here and manually update it, right? But for this example, we'll just stick to using the Power Pivot to make the model. If you want to see how to make the dates, a dates table with Power Query, you can watch the Power Query videos, right? So I'll come on here, right? Come on to design, and then zoom in, right? You have what calendar section. So I'll click on date table, this drop down date table, right? And you have what new. So I'll choose what new. And you can see, right? So using the dates column here, right? I'll be able to what come on to design date table, right? New. Able to create this new table called calendar, right? So Power Query has tried to add what year, month number, month, year, day of week, etc. And you can add more columns if you want to, right? Using DAX functions, you can add more columns, quarter, start of months, etc. You could add all those if you want to do that. So these are date table, right? Let's start answering our business questions. But before that, we need to create a data model. Currently, we have our tables, but they are still individual tables. They are not yet connected together, right? So to connect them together, we have to come to the Home tab, and then top right, you see what data view. So click on diagram view, right? Diagram view. Click on diagram view. So I click on that, and it opens up a diagram view. So you can see all our tables, right? So we need to make our model here. I'll just bring all sales. This is my fact table, right? All sales. Bring it to the center somewhere here. If I go to the right, you see my calendar is hiding somewhere there. So I'll bring it somewhere here too. So basically, it's just simply you connecting similar columns together. So for a fact, I know that product table and my all sales, right? They are linked by the product ID, right? So I'll just click on product ID, I'll drag it and put it on product ID on all sales, right? And they're connected. Similarly, right, geography and all sales, they are linked by the zip, right? When I click on zip and put it here, you see an error, right? Cannot be created because each column contains duplicate values. Choose one column that contains only unique values. So that's why we made the zip country column, right? We'll now connect zip country to zip country. But then there's an issue. We didn't create the zip country for all sales. We need to go back to Power Query now and make that update. So I'll come back to my Excel file and click on what's the all sales query. So we need to make a new column called zip country. So I'll come on to add column and custom column. And here, right, we'll call this zip country. So this is simply what we use what zip, right? Zip, and then we use what the ampersand symbol, right? Zip, and then we use a delimiter hyphen, right? And symbol again, and lastly, country. Click on it twice. Once you have this right, hit OK. That's zip country, and I'll make it as a text. And now we can close and load. So home tab, close and load. So this will take some time, but then if you have the zip country column added to our model. Still loading. If you look down here, right, it's showing you the number of rows. Currently, I have over 4 million rows being loaded. 5 million now, so it's still loading. Let's go back to our data model. And you can see our new column is now here, right? Zip country. You can see a zip country. So we can try to join geography and all sales by zip country. Let's see what happens now. So you can see this worked correctly, right? Because this is unique. Zip country here is unique. When we use zip, right, they were duplicates, so it didn't work. But now zip country works correctly. The same way, product manufacturer, they have similar columns, right? Manufacturer ID, manufacturer ID. So we can connect them together. Right. Let me just take this here and bring it somewhere. Yeah. And lastly, right, calendar and all sales, they are linked by dates, dates. I'll drag dates here. Yeah, so I think we're good, right? All our tables are now connected. So we can start building our charts. So let's go back to our Excel file. So if you look at our business questions, right? We have 4 questions: market share, revenue trend across manufacturers, sales distribution in the US, and revenue trend and year-on-year growth. So let's come back to our Excel file. So I'll call this first sheet, I'll call it market share. Second one will be revenue across manufacturers. And then we'll have year-on-year growth. And lastly, we'll have US sales. This will be like a map showing US sales. For the first one, right, revenue across manufacturers, we'll try to make a pivot table from our model to show this. Sorry, market share rather. So let's look at revenue across all um, let's get revenue across all the different markets and see what would be the best way to show this. So let me go back to my data view. Data view. Look at revenue across all manufacturers. Let's do that. So I'll come on here, home tab, insert a pivot table from data model. So yours might be different, right? But basically, create pivot table and choose data model option. Data model, existing worksheet here. So I hit OK. So then my pivot table. So I want to look at revenue. So I click on this and I'll choose revenue. I want to look at this across all manufacturers. So I want manufacturer and choose manufacturer. Put down the rows. I also want to look at this across all years. So I'll come on here. Let's put manufacturer on the columns rather, and our calendar. Let's put years, year on the rows. So across each year, right, you can look at what each manufacturer's revenue across each year. Right. So using this now, let's try to visualize this. Let's look at it on a chart. So I click on this and just come on to insert and I'll choose let's do a line chart, right? So pivot chart, and I'll choose a line chart. So I can see the trend of all the manufacturers. So I hit OK. So this is what chart looks like, right? Let me make this bigger. What a chart looks like, right? We want to show market share. So so this is the chart actually for the second question. So you know what? Let me just call this revenue across manufacturers. I'm just calling market share. So I don't go on casting and doing it twice. So this chart here answers the question for what revenue across manufacturers. Because you can see what revenue numbers, right? You can see the trend across all the manufacturers. So this is the actual chart for this. So what we can do is we just try to make this cleaner. So for this chart, we can add a title to this chart title. So I'll call this revenue across manufacturers. And we can take out all the stuff. Right click, hide all field buttons on chart. Let's choose that. Then you can take off grid lines also. Click on this, take off grid lines also. Let me see data labels. Let me see if it's clean. No, it'll be clean. I think it's like this. So this is a chart for this, right? Revenue across manufacturers. Yeah, cool. I have a question. So we can see that what's for Van Aftel, for example. So these are company, right? We can just try to highlight this. Let me see if it's possible to do that. Um, it is a company, right? Van Aftel. Just make it bolder. The rest of the things. So you can really see your company across others. So basically, right, for Van Astel, this video one Van Astel, you can see that it has the largest share, right, across all the years, the largest revenue across all the years. Also, it's trending upwards, which is a good thing, right? So this just shows us a high level picture of what all the manufacturers. This, for example, is Natura. So you can see in some years, right, it maintained the value, it went up and came slightly down. And you can look at other manufacturers individually. So this for the question, right, revenue across manufacturers. So next, let's do market share. So for these, right, let's insert a pivot table on data model. Okay. For this, I'll have manufacturers also. And we'll look at their revenue or sales revenue also. So the goal is that I want to see the percentage, right, for each of these different manufacturers. So if you look at the chart, for example, right, market share. So across each country, we'll see the share of each manufacturer. So let's go back to our Excel file. So let me put manufacturer on the columns actually, and let's put country on the rows. So here I can see for each country, right? Each country, you can see how well manufacturers are doing across each country. So Australia, you can see this. Canada, you can see the different manufacturers, etc. So now let's try to visualize this, right? So I come on here, insert pivot charts. So column charts, no. Let's do, let me see. Let's see, bar charts now. Let's do this chart. Yeah, let's do a stacked column chart here. So I came on towards this right 2D column, and I chose what's the stacked column chart. Let's choose this. So let's look at this chart. and see if it tells us something meaningful and if we can optimize it. So for this chart, right, you can see that it shows us the manufacturers across all the countries, right? You know what? Let's sort this. Sort largest to smallest. Yeah, cool. So you can see it's sorted, right? Largest to smallest. So USA down to Canada. So you can see for the manufacturers, right? This is Van Astel, for example, the blue, right? And you can see all the different shares, right? But for the smaller countries, Nigeria, Germany, etc., it's hard to see clearly what's happening. So for this case, right, you brainstorm and decide to what further group your manufacturers into three. So now you have you want to have three groups. One is your own company, Van Astel, right? The next one would be the top five manufacturers. And then lastly, you have what? Other manufacturers. So you have three groups now. Van Astel, our company, top five manufacturers, and then others. So you have three groups. Now you can easily see what the share for each country. You see what Van Astel, top five, and others. You see how it's been broken down. So for these, right, in Excel, we need to write custom DAX functions that will help us achieve this. So let's go on to the Power Pivots view. So currently, right, let's go to the all sales table. Currently, right, you have a column for revenue, but we can also make a measure for revenue. The exact same thing, right, for revenue, a measure. So I'll come on here, I'll call my measure, I'll call it total revenue. And in Power Pivot, right, you put a colon. No, you put a colon and then equal to and type your function, right? This is simply what sum of the revenue column, right? So all sales table revenue, sum it together. That's all. So once you have this right, hit enter. And total revenue, so we'll have right. This is the exact same thing as what revenue. But then this offers us some, we can reuse this in other calculations, right? So just to confirm what I'm telling you, right? If you come on and put this value in your pivot table, it will be the exact same thing as using this also, the exact same thing. So let's come on to manufacturer, right? We want to make three groups, Van Asdel, top five, and then others, right? So first things first, we want to do is have a ranking. We want to rank manufacturers based on their sales, right? From highest to lowest. So what I can do is I'll call this sales ranking. A new column called sales ranking, right? And for this, right, the formula will be equal to, this will simply, so you have a function called rank x, right? A DAX function called rank x. And it does what? It returns the rank of an expression evaluated in the current context in the list of values for the expression. So in simple terms, right, it tries to rank some values based on a given measure. In this case, we want to rank manufacturers based on total revenue. So the one with the highest revenue will be number one, the next number two, just like that. So rank X, right? It takes in a couple of arguments, table, expression, value, order, size, etc. Table, right? In this case, table will be the what manufacturer table, which we are currently on. So manufacturer, I'll type in, right? Comma. My expression will be what am I trying to rank this manufacturers by? By total revenue. So that'll be my measure, total revenue. right? This multiply revenue, comma. Value, right? In almost all instances, this will be blank. So you have to put another comma. That's blank. And then order, right? Are you ranking in ascending or descending order? In our case, right? That's what descending order. So I'll choose that. And for the ties, and ignore that also. Just close the bracket and hit enter. So you can see, right? These are all ranked, right? So finance is number one, natural number two. You have, um, let me see. Number three is aliquid, etc. Right. So let's go back and confirm. Finance there one, natural two, aliquid three. Let's go back and confirm if it's the same thing. Which we'll have here. So I come on here, right? Right click. I sort more sort options, sort descending by revenue. Okay. So you can see, right? Finance there one, natural two, aliquid three. The exact same thing we had, right? And the last is what? Palmer and common. When you check the measures, right? Look at Palmer, that's 12. Look at common, right? Look at the bottom one. You also have Salvos, Baba, etc. Um, we have the ranking, right? So now I want to have three groups. Van Astel will be in one group, the top five, second group, and then others from six downwards being a third group, right? For this, we just call this sales group. And for this, right, this will simply be, we'll use an if function to achieve this, right? So an if function to achieve this, if. So if, right, you have a test, logical test, if true, if false, just like that, right? So here I can say if the manufacturer name, so if manufacturer is equal to Van Astel, Van Astel, right, in quotes, what should happen? Return Van Astel, right? That's what I want to do. Return Van Astel, comma, false, right? I'll put another if statement, if again, right? I need to close this quotes, yeah, comma, another if statement now, right? So if manufacturer is Van Astel, return Van Astel. Else, if, so now look at the ranking column now. If the ranking is what? Less or equal to 5, that's what the top 5 guys, right? If it's less or equal to 5, then return top 5. So if what? Sales ranking, right, is less than or equal to 5, then return what? Top 5. Else, right, return others. So we're able to create our group, right? Enter. So let's see if it works. What's the issue? the expression refers to multiple columns. Let's try to see what the issue is. So if manufacturer is Van Astel, comma, return Van Astel. Else, if manufacturer ranking is less or equal to 5, return top 5, else return others. I think that's the issue. Manufacturer, manufacturer column. That's the issue. So this should be the manufacturer column. These are not the table now. Manufacturer table, manufacturer column. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, this should work now, I suppose. Right there. Yeah, cool. So this is correct, right? So if manufacturer column in manufacturer table is Van Astel, return Van Astel. Else, if it's less than equal to 5, ranking, top 5, else others. If you look here, right, Van Astel is Van Astel. Then all the guys that are 5 and below, this 5, top 5, this 4, top 5, this 3, top 5, this 2, top 5. This Van Astel, right? So this excluded. Then the rest, 6 and above, right? Others, all others. So we can now use this, right, in our pivot chart. Let's go back to our Excel file now. So here we can replace the manufacturer with what the sales grouping. So I'll come on here, right click, show field list. On my pivot table, right, I'll just take off manufacturer and I'll bring in the sales grouping that we just created now, right? Sales group, to the sales group, the columns are here, right? It's now easier to see what's happening, right? So we'll try to stick with the same color, right? Van Astel is blue here. So we'll come on here and use the same blue also for Van Astel. So I'll just change the colors here. Just do the same blue. Let me see. Use hash for this guy. Use Van Astel. Also have the same color throughout here. I think it's a blue now. It's the same blue. Okay, cool. I think it's the same thing. Just my eyes. Um, so we can see market share, right? And what we can do is make this be percentages. So show values as percent of current total. No. percent of raw total, and I write this down. This is like 100% bar chart. So you can see for each country, the breakdown, right, of the sales across all the countries. So for example, in USA, Fanastel is about 40%, and then you have top five, 52%, others about 8%. And you can see the same across all the different um, countries. Let me see. Let me try something different. Let's see if that's better. Show values as let's stick with the raw total. I think that makes the most sense. So here we are not interested in what's the trend across all the different countries. We want to just see for each country, right? What's the share of these different groups? Fanastel, top five, others, right? So you can see, for example, in Germany, Fanastel has a very large share of the sales, and also in Australia also similarly, right? The top five guys are doing higher share in Mexico, Canada, slightly in Nigeria, but in Japan, Vanessa has a slightly higher share. In USA, the top five guys have a higher share. So you can just give it a name. So I'll call this chart title market share. And I can take all these off. I don't field buttons. I can hide the grid lines. Axis. I can hide the capital axis. I can make all this to be white. Like this one. So let's change this color. So our normal blue I'm using. Yeah, that's market share, right? Let's look at year-on-year growth. So we are done with this. So for year-on-year growth, this is simply looking at current year sales, last year sales, and the percentage growth between both years, right? So for this, we need to make new measures. So currently we have, for measures, we have total revenue, right? For this, like current year, we need to create a similar measure for the previous year and then find the percentage difference between current year and previous year. So I'll make a new measure. I'll call this LY, last year revenue, colon equal to. Is equal to, so for this, right, we want to calculate revenue based on a filter context. Look at the previous year. So we introduce, let me track this down so you see what I'm doing. So we use a function called calculate. This is one of the most powerful functions in DAX, right? Calculate an expression based on a filter context. In this instance, calculates the total revenue, right? So this same measure we have here, total revenue, right? Same measure we have here, calculate it. But now we want to look at what a filter context. So there's a time function called same period last year, right? Same period last year. It returns what your expression for what's the same period last year. So if, for example, I'm looking at sales for January to July, right? Same period last year, we evaluate what for last year, January to July, the same time period for the previous year. That's the whole catch. So same period last year, it takes a date column, right? So calendar table and my dates column, that's what I'll put there. Close the brackets and enter. So this is simply my last year revenue, right? And if I make this larger, you see what's the value there, right? So next thing, we want to get what's the percentage difference between this and this. And this will be evaluated for what every year based on what we'll put in our table and chart. So I'll come on here and this will be my what I'll call this measure year-on-year change. So this is simply what current year minus last year divided by what last year. That's the formula. So this is equal to. So for this, right, I'll first make a variable. So in DAX, you can make a variable, right? I'll call this difference, right? And this is simply what's total revenue measure minus last year revenue, right? So this minus this, total minus last year. This gives us what the difference between both years, right? Current year and last year. Then the next thing now is what to return what. So you have what return. What will be our final result, right? Return. So here now we'll divide what's the difference, right? Total revenue, current year minus last year, divided by what last year. So I'll return what. So in DAX, you have a function called divide, right? So divide what's our difference, right? DIFF. When you subtract current year minus last year, the difference, divide it, that's numerator, by what? Last year sales, right? Last year revenue. That's our denominator. So in essence, we are saying what? Total revenue minus last year revenue divided by what? Last year revenue. So once you have this, right, we can, you also have an alternative result, right? So maybe when you have errors, return 0, for example, you can put that also. That's optional. Hit enter, right? So these are value, decimal, 0.199 something. But I want this as percentage. So I'll click on this, come up to this formatting tab, right? And click on what this percentage format, right? Click on that and you see it applies what percentage, right? 19.95%. So let's go back to our table and look at this. So I bring in pivot table. Okay. So for this, I'll simply have for this, I'll have let's bring in year from calendar. So I'll bring in year on the rows. And next I'll bring in all sales, right? The minus we wrote all sales. Let's bring in total revenue to the values. And then last year revenue also. And then our percentage change. So you can see, right? Total revenue for 2014. There's no previous year. There's no last year. This is the sales for 2014. In the last year, since there's no time period, right? There's no sales in that time period, it's blank. What's the change? Normally it's blank, right? But I put my alternate at 0, so you have 0% there. Then 2015 now, right? What's the actual sales for 2015? This 262 something, right? What was last year? 210. So you see what this and this are the same thing, right? Last year sales. And when you subtract this from this and divide your difference by last year's sales, what will you get? 27.21%. The same thing, right? Downwards. That's what we're trying to do. So what we can do is we'll try to put these on a chart. So we can take off the last year's sales. We don't need last year revenue. Take it off. So let's turn this to a chart. So let's do a combo chart. Insert pivot charts. Let's come down to combo. Right. Yeah, let's use this one. So our revenue will be the column chart, and the year-on-year change will be what? That would be the line chart, right? This works. Hit OK. Yeah, cool. Let's try to pick up all the stuff. We hide all field buttons, remove grid lines, add a title. It doesn't look clean. Let's do it this way. Just make this to have a green color. Yeah, cool. Then lastly, right, let's look at what's our map, US sales. So we'll make one more sheet where we'll have our actual reports, our dashboard. I'll call this dashboard. So let's come to US sales, right? So we want to insert a map simply for US sales, insert pivot table, data model. Okay. So here, right, we'll have from geographic table, we'll have our states on the rows. And lastly, we'll have actual sales values, revenue. Okay. So this for just the US, right? So add a filter. We'll bring the countries from geography to the filters. And then what we'll do is we'll just filter for the US alone. So drop down, right? I'll choose what's US alone. USA. Choose USA. And hit OK. So this is now what's just the USA. So let's try to make a map from this pivot table. Click on this, right? When you come on to insert tab, click on your pivot table, right? Anywhere in pivot table, come to insert tab. You see what maps here, right? Click on insert map. Let's see what happens when we do this. So I choose this option. And it says what you can't create this chart type with data in a pivot table. Please choose a different chart type or copy the data outside the pivot table. That's what I'll do. So I come on here, I will copy this data, right? Outside the pivot table. I will exclude the total, just the states and their values. Copy this, right? And I'll bring it outside the pivot table. So I can put it somewhere here, for example. Or where I can even do so. Let's exclude the totals. Let's make it dynamic in case it changes later on, right? So I can come on here, design, subtotals, do not show subtotals, then grand totals also off for rows and columns. So it's now off. So what I can do is I can just come on here. This is equal to the value here, right? So I can drag it down. Then I can do so for the states. And then this revenue. So you can copy and paste, right? But I can just do a VLOOKUP, just make it dynamic so you can change, right? So I'll look up this, no, look up this, look up F, look up this value here, right? This value here, look it up in this table array. So I'll choose what's everything here. And what I can do is to lock it in, right? F4 or function F4.